All right, well, howdy, everybody. Welcome back to the Feed Bandit YouTube page. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're actually going to be diving into what is probably one of the most difficult topics when it comes to hunting whitetail deer, and especially in today's day and age where you've got all kinds of management situations. You've got antler restrictions to worry about. Some of y'all hunt on high fence ranches where aging a deer is absolutely essential. So today we're going to go through some of the things that at Feed Bandit we look for. We look for when we're aging deer. Some of the characteristics that we see, and we're going to put it here on a little video for everybody. And again, we are not professionals. Okay, this just comes from years of experience, and actually shooting a deer and then getting it on the ground and looking at the teeth and making an aging call as to okay, that deer is X. So yes, we were right. So again, we're going to jump through some still shots here and just take a quick look at them and point out some of the characteristics that we look for. Still shots are obviously one of really the easiest ways to um, age deer, to kind of figure out what you got. I mean, obviously you can't be there all the time. God knows we wish we could be, but so it really is kind of an acceptable method for aging deer. Obviously, seeing them in person is even better, but something that we really like and we really try to do. Now it's going to fill up your SD cards pretty quickly, as we really try to get an age on these deer by a video. Okay, and if you look at the Feed Bandit YouTube channel, we've got a ton of 30-second to 1 minute video clips of some pretty nice deer, and not just bucks but does as well. Okay, we're always looking to see where our mature deer are hanging out, and so we can try to get the slip on them. So I like looking at video. We think it's we personally think it's a great way, because not only can you see body sizes, but you can see characteristics of animals that you may not have been able to see on your still shot. So here's a really interesting picture, and you might be thinking, okay, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at the buck, or are we looking at the doe? Okay, well, this is one of those shots that, again, if you were to see this like it is right now as a still shot, you really can't tell a whole hell of a lot about this particular animal as far as the buck is concerned. Now, if obviously we can sit there and look at his antlers and say, okay, well, obviously he's got a little bit of age on him, because he doesn't have a tag in his ear, so we know he's not some sort of super bionic buck, right? But again, it's really kind of difficult to age this deer from this particular viewpoint. Now, one indicator that I can see that would tell me this is a mature animal, besides his rack, okay, he's not 2, he's not 3. We can look at him and kind of tell that, but also is this gut. All right. As far as when's the best time at aging deer, cataloging deer, if you will, I really like to do it now. Okay, so now in September, October, after they have shed their velvet, because this is when their body characteristics are going to show up the most, in my opinion. I think it's difficult to judge deer, especially bucks, post rut, because they've lost 30-40 pounds in some cases. So some of their age characteristics, such as a limp and stuff, will show up, but again, in my opinion, this is really the time to age these animals. Now, I put this particular picture in here for one reason. A, I think it's a really good picture. But B, we've got some does in here. Okay, well, we've got some does and we got some fawns. So very interesting. Clearly, we can see that this is the doe right here. This may be a doe as well. Obviously, this is a fawn. Okay, but I think this is really interesting, and I think it's a good picture, because it shows you kind of the family dynamic that you're going to see, early on in the deer season. And even though clearly this fawn is, actually, you know what? And now that I'm really thinking about it, that's kind of interesting. This actually may be a year and a half old deer. I'm not seeing any spots on this guy at all. And by this point in the year, so it's October 30th, the day before Halloween, this particular animal should still have a couple of visible spots, I would think. So this could be a year and a half old fawn or a year and a half old deer. I think clearly here is the mom. We can just look at the ear difference and see, and this could just be a single doe as well. But it's interesting, if we're saying that this doe right here is a year and a half, okay, look at her body size. And again, it's kind of difficult, but look at her body size compared to mom, okay, what I'm assuming is mom. Mom is obviously a little bit bigger. She's got a little bit of a gut here, but I'm not going to say that, she's some sort of ancient animal. Again, very difficult to tell by pictures, but something interesting I wanted to point out. Okay, well, here's another interesting little picture. This is your spike argument. We'll get into the spike argument maybe in another one of these little classes, but typically your spikes, okay, are going to be year and a half old deer. I grew up in the age where it was you got a spike, blast it, okay, it should be at least a 6 point, something of that nature. That thinking has kind of changed in some areas of the country. This is clearly, and obviously this is on Rancho Bandito, clearly a year and a half old animal. Okay, we got a real tight chin here. We got not a gut, that obviously no gut, no slope in the back. Okay, again, difficult picture because you really can't see his full body, but these legs look super, super long to me. And again, I particularly don't age deer off of antlers, but I know that in this case he's a little fork. It looks like that this is a year and a half old animal. And if you need meat, okay, well, I understand that from a management standpoint, we're going to let him roll. Okay, now we graduate a little bit here. Here is what appears to be an 8-point. Now, we can clearly see that this animal has definitely got a little age on him. Okay, and again, this could be the picture. I don't know if he's, standing on some bunch brush right here or something like that that's putting his butt up a little bit, but we got a little bit of a slope here. I think, just judging by the age of what I think this animal is, I think that this is exaggerated a little bit because of where he's standing. Okay, but we definitely have got a little bit of a hump here, if you or a low spot in his back, which is one of the indicators for an older animal. Definitely starting to get a little bit of a gut. Okay, his legs are not going to appear as long as they would, for a super young deer like that or that fork we just saw. Another indicator, when you start to get older deer, is a really defined brisket. Okay, so this is kind of the brisket area. You can see this line right here, and you can see this really start to kind of try to, protrude out. And then as you travel along the belly, it kind of becomes defined. Okay, and you're going to see that here in a moment. So again, looking for the sway back, a little gut, and then that brisket. Okay, I also look at the face. Okay, not only, again, don't look at the antlers. I look at the face, and again, it's kind of difficult to tell from this picture, but some of these older deer, their nose appears to be super short, and you're going to see that here in a few moments. On this guy, he really doesn't appear to have that super long, or excuse me, that super short appearance on his face. So again, definitely got some age on him. I think he's mature for sure. I am going to go ahead and put him in the probably in the 4.5-year-old category. It's just for Rancho Bandito is in the central Texas kind of hill country-ish area. So this is the kind of deer we're dealing with. Now, from a management standpoint on Rancho Bandito, this guy doesn't have a whole lot going for him that we really like. He's got virtually no width. I mean, for antler restrictions, he's barely legal. right? He's just outside of his ears. He's an 8-point, which most whitetails are going to be 8 points. Okay, anything else is gravy, they say. Um, doesn't have his height is okay. It's nothing to write home about, and his mass isn't all that good. But he's 4.5. He may be on the list as far as a management deer is concerned. Be a hell of a great deer for a first time hunter, but we'll see as far as how we're looking at other targets before we make a decision on him. Okay, this is a picture from when they were still in velvet. This is in August. I put this picture here. I think this animal right here in the background is a great example of a deer you want. This guy just screams young. Look at this neck, okay? Again, we really can't tell a lot from this guy, but again, really a younger looking face, a real thin neck. Okay, yeah, he's a little bit of a gut. I'm going to call this guy probably 2.5, could be 3.5. Now look at him, and again, very difficult to tell, still shot picture. Look at him compared to this guy. Okay, look at his nose. Okay, and I know there's a difference. There's a distance difference. Look at his nose compared to this guy. Okay, this guy has the appearance, quote unquote, of a shorter snout. Also, you get a real dark forehead here. Ears are starting to get a little bit of floppiness. I've heard that there's a coalition. Okay, I can't pronounce that damn word. It's Monday. There is a connection between floppy ears and old deer. Don't know if that's scientific or not. Starting to look down here. Here's that brisket. Definitely apparent here. I wish I could see this guy facing here, and you definitely got a belly here. Can't see a sway back from the picture, but pretty sure it's there. But by looking at this guy, I'm going to say he's at least 5.5 years old. I betcha he is older than that, but that's as far as I can tell. Okay, got another great example. As far as aging deer is concerned, this, in my opinion, is one of the best angles you're going to get. Now, let's take a look at this guy. Okay, again, not really a sway in the back. Okay, you're not really seeing it. Nose, yeah, he doesn't really have it. It looks, looks pretty long. Forehead's not super dark. All right, let's talk about brisket. Yeah, he's starting to get one right here for sure. But look at these legs, okay? These legs look really long to me. This particular animal, again, given that I know where we are, I'm going to say this particular animal is probably 3.5 to 4.5 years old. Now, in this particular area, this is going to be on a high fence property. There are some genetics in here. There's no Canadian deer or Wisconsin deer. They're all Texas natives, but we do have some animals that are. Some of our younger deer do appear to be older, so that does pose a little bit of a challenge for us sometime. But I'm going to go ahead and say this guy is 3.5. Something else that we have not discussed is the rainfall and the forage amounts, right? So we're serving protein, we're feeding protein. We're feeding cottonseed. We had we had a hell of a lot of rain this year, so the conditions are absolutely phenomenal. So for these younger deer, such as this guy, okay, at 3.5, 4.5 years old, with perfect conditions, his body needs have been taken care of, so all of this really goes to his rack. So from a management standpoint, okay, where does this guy fall in our management plan at Rancho Bandito? Well, again, he's just at his ear, so doesn't have not a lot of spread, okay, which is something that we look for. His height's okay. I'm not going to complain. He's an 8-point. Most whitetail bucks are going to be 8 points once they get, 2 or 3.5 years old. All right. Again, this guy may be on the list, okay, because we've got some guys that are 10, 12, 14 points. They're a little bit bigger. They've got a little bit more. We want them to do the breeding, not necessarily this fella. Again, this is a phenomenal animal. Absolutely tremendous animal. And it'd be a hell of a good management deer if we decide to to pull the trigger. Okay, well, here is the coup de grace. This is a hell of an animal. Now, if you've been paying attention, you can see some of the characteristics that we've been discussing right off the bat. Now, this is kind of a crappy picture. This was captured from a video, but you know, if you cover up his antlers, okay, and you just look at this guy for what he is, you can tell this is a super mature animal. Look at this face. Look at that face. I mean, it almost looks abnormal, doesn't it? It really looks. He's got that Roman nose. His face appears to be really, really short. This neck is gigantic, okay? And this brisket, extremely defined, goes all the way back. You can see a little bit of a gap here. This is a super mature animal. Can't see the sway in his back, but I guarantee you he's got it. I am putting this particular animal at a minimum at 6.5 years old. I think there's a real chance he could go 7.5. Obviously, this is a trophy caliber animal. This is kind of what we're working for here. So again, 6.5, could be 7.5 years old. This is an absolute monster. This guy is 200 pounds plus. This is just a tremendous animal, and he is a good representation of a good solid management plan, rain, feed, okay, and quite frankly, just a lot of luck, okay. But again, this is a super mature animal. We see all the characteristics. This would be a really good one to really take a hard look at. You know, they say on average that deer in the wild, I think they live on average till about 8.5 years old. Now, some of these high fence operations, that has not been the case. They've gone a little bit longer, but eventually at some point in an animal's life, the body, just like in humans, starts to break down, right? And so everything that animal consumes goes to its body first, then to its rack, okay, when it comes to bucks, okay? So when you've got a situation like, you've got a 6 or 7.5 or 8.5-year-old deer, going through the rut, man, that takes it out of them, okay? So again, they're having to eat more, consume more because their bodies are older, more time to heal. And then eventually you'll start to see guys like this, but with pretty pitiful racks. And those animals are the ones that you definitely want to take out. So, again, I kind of want to end on a high note. This is a phenomenal animal. This is what